So every piece of music has its own gravity. There are some notes that feel like they're moving us towards something. There are some notes that really feel like they're pulling us, the way that gravity pulls at us. And there are some parts of the piece that are full of tension, and then there are some parts of the piece that feel like we've come home. So today is all about finding the gravity in a piece of music, and I have some exercises for beginners, also exercises for more advanced musicians, and we're going to use this idea of gravity to shape the way we practice and also the way we perform our music. So my theme this week is gravity, and this is a really nice introduction to the idea of gravity in music. Strike, spark. So welcome to Practice Space. If you're new, I'm Erica. I'm a musician, a composer, and a music teacher. And Practice Space is all about sharing practice ideas, inspiration, creative exercises. And if you're interested in following, you can subscribe. And I also teach music online, so I'll leave a link to my teaching pages in the description. So music isn't just a series of notes. Every piece has its own shape. It has its own moments of tension and moments of release. And when we can find the shape of our piece and find how it's working with the kind of gravity of the key, the gravity of the composition, it makes it much easier to remember the piece of music, but it also makes us better able to perform the piece with more expression, really using the shape of the piece to shape our performance. So we're going to start with a couple of exercises just to look for the gravity in a piece of music that you're playing. So I'm going to start with an exercise that is great for beginners, but it's also nice for intermediate to advanced players as well. So the exercise is to take a short phrase of a piece that you are working on and see if you can find the point in that phrase where the melody feels like it has come to a place of rest. So I'm going to demonstrate. I'm going to actually sing the opening phrase of the jazz standard Bye Bye Blackbird. So, pack up all my cares and woe, here I go, singing low. So, have a listen again and see if you can work out the places in this where it feels like the melody is at rest. Pack up all my cares and woe, here I go, singing low. So what you may have found is that when I get to the end of the phrase, it feels like we've come to this moment of rest. And this is actually not the full first phrase. The full first phrase has a little bit extra. And so have a listen to the full first phrase, the full first 8 bars of this song, and see what happens at the end of the melody and see how it makes you feel at the end. So we have, pack up all my cares and woe, here I go, singing low. Bye, bye, blackbird. So I'm going to give you a moment just to think yourself how you feel about the end of that melody. And think, are you satisfied or are you waiting for something else? If I stopped there, if that was my performance, how would you feel if that was the end of the song? And I think you probably will feel this sense of dissatisfaction because the melody has it came to a point of rest, but then it built up some tension again, and the melody needs to continue before we can really resolve home. So your task is to take a small phrase, something from a piece you're working on or a song that you're learning to play, and just find where these points of rest are. And you can mark them in the music, or you can listen and you can use your ears. You don't need to know anything about music theory to do this. You don't need to know what key the song is in. You don't need to understand about the kind of technical ideas of harmony and cadences. All you need to do is really use your ears and just try and find those points in the piece that feel like it's come to rest. So these are the places where we've come home, we might say. And then once you've found these places that have come to rest, this is a nice way of anchoring your performance toward these places of rest. So possibly in your performance, you work on building some tension through the way you play to these places of rest. And it's just such a great exercise for your ears. And it's also a great exercise to pull you out of the fine detailed focus when you're just trying to play the notes correctly and start thinking about a piece as a whole and thinking about phrases and how phrases carry from the beginning of the phrase to the end of the phrase, and then how we join these phrases together to make the whole piece feel like we've gone on a journey from the beginning to the end. So if you're a more intermediate to advanced player, especially if you have kind of a good handle on some music theory, the next step is to take this further, and once you've found those points of resolution, try and mark in the points of unresolution or the points of dissonance. Try and find the highest points of tension in the piece. And also try and, you could even draw even visually like a kind of a shape. Maybe there's some hills where you're reaching those peaks of tension and then we're coming back home to land. And what this does is it gives you this amazing map, this macro map of where the phrases are going, and lets you really work with your performance toward an inevitable end. So you want to make that final resolution back to the tonic perhaps feel like it could do nothing else. It was so inevitable that at this moment in time, we are coming back to rest. And what we find is often that there are multiple points of tension and release, and the overall arc of the tension goes up. We may have like little hills that kind of come like this, where we come to rest briefly, and then there's usually a peak, and then what we find is that maybe there's like a really spinning descent back down to the final home, and that is what makes it feel so satisfying at the end. So that's your task, is to look for both the points of resolution but also the points of tension, and use them to your advantage when you are performing the piece of music. So in your practice today, have a look for the gravity in whatever it is you're playing. And I hope that this gives you a way of accessing something deeper than just worrying about playing the right notes. And if you found this helpful, you can give the video a like, you can subscribe for daily practice tips and more creative exercises like this. And if you like, you can also stay for a short relaxation exercise after this, just to help you transition into a really nice, calm, positive space for your music practice. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. So let's just take some time to prepare the body and the mind for practice. Take out your instrument, books, music, whatever you need for your practice today, and then spend a few moments making the space comfortable. And when you're ready, coming to a place of stillness, you can stand or sit with your instrument, and then with the next exhale, gently closing the eyes. Bring your awareness to your breath. Notice where in the body you feel that breath moving: the nose, the throat, chest, diaphragm. Where you feel the rise of each inhale and the fall of each exhale. And now you can begin to count each breath. 1 with the inhale, 2 with the exhale, 3 inhale, 4 exhale. Just up to a count of 10, then returning back to 1 again. And if any thoughts appear in the mind, simply noting, thinking, or any feelings, noting, feeling, and bringing the attention back to the breath. If you find you're distracted, simply returning to the count of 1, back to 10, and then repeat back at 1. So now slowly bringing your awareness back to the body, feeling the weight of your body in the chair, or the feeling of the feet connected to the floor. Maybe the feeling of your instrument under your fingers, its texture. And then, when you're ready, you can blink the eyes open, and I wish you a wonderful day's practice.